Hello and welcome to the Blood Brothers podcast. I have no idea what episode number this is, but I'm joined by Sean Coleman. Hiya, Sean. How are you?
Hello.
And you good?
Yeah.
Excellent. And we are joined tonight by a fabulous guest. It's none other than the acclaimed author, Emma Bamford. How are you doing, Emma?
Oh yeah, I'm all right, thanks. Not sure I'm acclaimed, but thanks very much for a really good intro.
Well, you are in these circles.
Oh,
and thank you very much for joining us on what we've just learned is the day you've moved house.
Yeah, big day.
And you've topped it off by speaking to us morons.
What better way to celebrate?
Yeah, I know. Sorry, Sean, I've grouped you in there. And how's it gone? Has it gone okay?
Yeah, really good. It did rain at one point, and I was like, "Oh my god, my sofa and my mattress is going to be like wet," but it's fine.
Awesome. Would you mind telling us a little bit, in which case, about your latest release, Deep Water, please?
I will do. Yeah. So Deep Water is my debut thriller, and it came out in the UK in July, and it tells the tale of a newly married couple, or fairly recently married couple, who basically sell everything and take their rather meager life savings and buy a boat, a sailing yacht, with the idea of setting off on an extended honeymoon to explore Southeast Asia. And when they're there, they're in a bar, as you are generally when you're traveling in Southeast Asia, and they meet a bloke, and he tells them about this remote paradise island called Amarante that's like 2,000 miles from anywhere, and the only way you can get there is private boat. And they go, "Oh, we've got a private boat. Wouldn't it be amazing to spend our honeymoon basically in paradise?" So they set sail. It takes them 2 weeks to get there, and of course, because it's a thriller, when they get there, things aren't exactly what they hoped that they would be.
Absolutely awesome. And how was this? I mean, you say debut thriller, but prior to that, you've been involved in memoir, haven't you? Prior to this, how was the change in sort of, I guess, the change in tone, the change in delivery? How was it jumping genre?
The subject matter is really similar, because my memoirs are about my adventures, like basically sailing the high seas. But thankfully, I wasn't living a thriller. So there was nobody trying to threaten my life, or threaten other people that I knew. So I had a lovely time when I went away, and I'm glad that I'm not Jake and Virginie, my characters, basically.
Well, I mean, there's so much, because obviously we don't come into this totally cold. So having read a little bit of your bio, Emma, I mean, I have got all manner of questions there, if I may. Well, could we start with answering an ad on the internet for Crew Wanted? Can we go there? Is that okay? And tell us a little bit about that, and how that has quite obviously informed what it is you're writing right now.
Yeah. So for somebody that hasn't come across my books before, which I'm sure are many, when I was in my early 30s, I had a professional job, a career that I'd been climbing the career ladder for ages, and I sort of got to the top, or maybe the second from bottom rung or whatever. And a lot of my friends, just because we're at that certain age, were starting to get married and have kids and things. And that wasn't really happening for me. And I started to feel like I was missing out on something, or that my life was sort of stuck in a rut. And then one of my friends said to me, "Are you bonkers?" So she was pregnant. She was like, "Well, I'm about to have a baby, so my life is pretty fixed for the next 18 years. But you can go anywhere you want and do anything you want and be anybody that you want to be." And I thought, right, that is true, and that sounds like a really good idea and a really good way to get out of a rut. And I've been getting into sailing. I grew up in Nottingham, so miles away from the sea, and I'd never been a sailor or anything, but I've got into it in my late 20s a bit. And I thought, well, I quite like sailing, and I quite like going to warm tropical places. So what if I went sailing in warm tropical places? And so I did this mad thing, and I quit my job. I sold my car. I rented out my flat. I answered an ad on the internet for Crew Wanted, and I bought a one-way ticket to Borneo to live on a boat with a man I'd never met and his cat. And then I wrote 2 books
Yeah, the
about
cat.
it.
What can go wrong if there's a cat involved?
I love the mad journeys that we all go through. This is one of the most incredible. It really is to get to, you know, where our paths crossed, as in this evening. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you wrote sort of 2 books on this essentially.
Yeah. So I spent about 2 or 3 years traveling around and I worked on a super yacht for a bit, and I traveled around the Caribbean and Southeast Asia, and then worked on the super yacht in the Mediterranean. And so then decided to write about the books and immortalize the cat for eternity in print.
Yeah. It's did you, because it's quite a departure going from sort of biography to fiction. Did you have the thriller plot kicking around in your head while you were out sailing? Or?
Yeah, it kind of came to me. But the funny thing is, like, when I told my friends and family that I'd done this mad thing and answered this advert, pretty much every single person said to me, how do you know the captain of the boat is not a serial killer? And have you seen the film Dead Calm? I was like, yeah, I have. So that probably planted the seed for a sea-set thriller, I would have thought. But I knew he wasn't a serial killer because I asked him, and he said no. So I was like, fine, that's okay then, isn't it?
I mean, most serial killers, when you ask them, they do hesitate slightly and go, but I've got a cat. What?
Yeah.
Were you, I mean, oh my word. So before all this inspiration took place for all your writing exploits since, or the writing exploits that have been published since, were you writing before that? Where was writing in your life prior to this?
I wrote a really, really terrible novel in my 20s that went into, it's never going to see light day. It's on a floppy disk, which is really good because that means it literally can't come out.
I have some of those.
Yes, I was going to say, Sean, we would never write bad novels in our 20s, right? ever. But you always
the floppy disk in my.
But were you? So you were like passionate about wanting to become a writer prior?
Yeah, I think so. The funny thing is, so I'm going to tie this in with the moving house because, you know, hey, stories, everything.
This is it. We love a neat bow on things. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was packing to move here, I found like a box of my old paperwork and stuff, and it had my UCAS form in. You know, you do a personal. If you go to university, you do a personal statement, right? When you're 16 or 17 or something. And I always thought that I'd put in that I want to be a journalist. When I grow up, I want to be a journalist because that's what I went on to do. And in fact, that's what I wrote in one of my books. I think maybe it's even in the prologue to my first book, Casting Off. I think I said that I'd written in my UCAS form, I want to be a journalist. Anyway, when I was packing to move house, I found it and it said, oh, when I grow up, I want to be an author. I've completely forgotten my life dream, apparently. Yeah, but, you know, I'm a massive reader. Like, I'm sure you get loads of your guests say that. And so that's where I ended up, at that one really, really awful novel. At university, I did English literature, and then I did creative writing modules in that, and wrote some, again, really, really bad short stories that will never see the light of day.
Oh, look, I think every university student that's done literature, I did script writing, and everything was, I imagine, having now taught on university courses since, at the most absolutely formulaic drivel. Every lecturer sits there and goes, yeah, well, it's got merit.
I'm going to put my hand up to that too. Yeah. we have to do it. It's like a rite of passage, isn't it? The really awkward first submissions to the page, I think.
I've actually got a vivid memory of my university lecturer who turned out to, he's now an author that I published, Neil Richards, and him doing an impression of the sentence I'd written in a literal way, because it seemed to infer that the tiny Jesus came off the cross and rampaged around the table, and he just did this most vivid impression of a tiny rampaging Jesus, cold in his hands. And I was like, well, clearly that's not what I meant, you divs. This is the worst tutorial I've ever had. But At least he helped me find my voice eventually.
Oh gosh, I recently found in our garage a screenplay I'd written immediately after about Heartbreak.
Yeah.
Oh God, that was bad. Reading that was really, really bad. And that will, I think one day I'm going to share it. Actually, I'm going to bite the bullet and I'm just going to share it because I think it's that bad. It needs to be out there. Actually,
but the thing is, I bet when you wrote it, you thought you were really writing from the heart, and you're like,
oh yeah, I thought it was a masterpiece. I thought it was going to be like the next John Hughes movie.
It probably started with Master, but it didn't end with Peace.
I know, honestly, you could almost feel the tears on the crinkly paper. I was a tortured man during this period. Well, I was a boy, really.
Hammering out your deepest emotions on a dot matrix printer.
Yes. Watching it churn out. This will show you, lady I met in nightclub who spurned my advances. No, sorry. Anyway, we're moving slightly on. So journalism, Emma. Did that feel like a natural fit once you moved into that?
Yeah. I really I'm still a journalist now as well. I don't just write books. I'm a sub-editor on a newspaper. Cool. So I kind of take other people's reporter stories and edit them and things, make them fit the page and write the headlines. But I ended up in so my first job was at the Buckingham and Winslow Advertiser series in Buckinghamshire. And the first 2 weeks I got there and I was like, I'm ready to like crack journalism and do all these big stories. And I covered village fates every day for 2 weeks because I joined in the summer. So I had to be inventive about different ways about describing a vicar opening the village fete and cutting the ribbon with the massive scissors. And then always somebody would present. Do you remember giant checks?
Yes.
Would be like that big. Yeah. So someone would always be presenting a giant check to somebody else. It got really repetitive. So I had to invent different ways of writing about the giant check.
Did you ever get to commentate on the funny shaped vegetable competitions? Or
no, but we did have a who can grow the tallest hollyhock competition. And I kid you not. So this is in the days before digital photography. So all the people that lived in the villages in the town would actually post me printed out photos. So they'd got their camera, taken a picture of their hollyhock with something next to it for tape measure or something, then gone to Boots or God, I can't remember the name, True Print or whatever, printed off their photo and then sent it to me. Scanned it in and put it in the newspaper. I wish I could remember how tall the tallest hollyhock was, but yeah.
This reminds me of my friend Roddy is very, very good at taking photos of things and making his wife stand in the photo for scale.
Yeah.
but she's always in the most random places. Why is Kirsty there? Oh, for scale. Put an extra hollyhock. That would determine.
Can I ask what a hollyhock is?
Oh,
a hollyhock
all over the place. They're them tall, weedy flowers. They're not weeds, they're flowers, but they grow out of anywhere, and they've got great big, blousy flower on them.
Yeah, that's cool. Good. Basically, triffids.
Cool.
They don't suck out your brain. So.
Which would make the village fete infinitely more to report on, really, I suppose. No, I've always wondered, when you win one of those big checks, or you get awarded one of those, how do you cash it? Do you have to take it to the bank and walk into the bank with it? And everyone wow, they're suddenly minted, we can rob them.
Like in the post office where you've got the oversized window where you put your big parcels through.
Is it like that?
In the bank.
And are they card or are they made out of the same check paper? You know what I mean?
I don't know, but this is making me really want to ask my publisher if my next royalty payment can come in the form of a giant check.
They be allowed to present with a ribbon.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be incredible. It'd be amazing if if it was a normal thing, a normal societal thing, and you just had members of the Royal Mail wandering the streets with bags of massive checks just strapped to them, hauling them around. Oh, it'd be great. Not very
massive pockets. massive pens as well for guiding the
Yeah, they always had massive thick fonts as well, didn't they? Yeah.
It's all the people who later trained to be sign writers for pubs with them fat jaws.
Yes, this is a whole industry that we lost.
It's okay. They retrained. For pubs. The giant decorator is not lost on us.
Oh no, my father-in-law still does. He's a sign maker for pubs, and when we drive around anywhere, he goes, "Oh, I did that one. You know, it's such a cool, like old cool thing that he does. I really, really love it. Really love it. I'm sure there's a pub crawl in it somewhere as well. Actually, going to all the ones he's done the thingies for. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
I reckon you could make a pub crawl out of anything, really.
I think we possibly could.
Oh, look, here's 7 pubs. Pub crawl.
Yes. Is that a meager walking distance between them? I'll take it. So when you started Deep Water, Emma, and were you was it like a shot in the dark? Was a publisher attached? Did you have an agent or anything like that? Or
No, I didn't. So I sort of had the idea. The setting came first, the idea of this like really remote island. And you know how they say that first-time novelists sort of write autobiographically. So I was sitting on the front of a yacht anchored off a paradise island in the Indian Ocean. And I thought, oh, this might make a good setting for a book. So, yeah. But I didn't know it was going to be a thriller. I was just like writing this book. It's had maybe 5 different endings.
wow,
like really, really different. And I don't even know how many drafts, and quite a lot of years. And then when I was 40, I decided to treat myself by quitting my job, renting out my house. I didn't sell my car.
There's a theme going on here,
Borneo,
you know, Emma.
But I moved to Norwich, and
I
did
love Norwich.
Yeah. Say again?
Norwich is like Borneo.
Yeah, really similar. Yeah. Turtles everywhere.
I absolutely love Norwich and the Norfolk Broads. I absolutely love it. But was that for the MA?
Yeah.
They do this fabulous MA down there. How was your experience on that one?
Yeah, really good. Really, really enjoyed it. First year was fun. I did it part-time, so that's over 2 years. First year was fantastic. Second year, COVID hit. So that was really difficult because we had to do a lot of it remotely. But they do a crime and thriller option. And I did that in my first semester. This is how dense I am. I went to see my tutor. He's called Tom Ben, and he's a writer as well. And I said, well, I don't know if I'm writing a thriller. And he said, well, I think you might be, but you're going to have to change a lot of things. If you're I was like, okay, I'll go off and do that then.
I know Tom because he's from Manchester, like I am. So he is a lovely man. I really enjoy his company, and really such a talented writer as well.
Yeah, really good.
Oh, that's so interesting. And were there any other sort of notable alumni on your course?
Yeah, loads of them. And my mind's gone completely.
It's always the way. It's always the way.
It's kind of
like all of my friends.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about them. I just want to talk about me.
Because I asked because it is a bit of a it has such a fabulous record of producing wonderful writers.
Yeah, and so next year, there's quite a few people from my year. Their debut novels coming out next year.
Wow. Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. And how has it been immersing yourself in the crime and thriller community since then?
Yeah, well, do you know what? Everyone's so nice and friendly, aren't they?
Yeah, we are.
They're not like all sullen and serial killery and whatever. No, yeah, it's been really good.
We got it all out well before you see us face to face.
That's comforting to know.
Yeah. Oh, I must admit that I have just only good stories to say about the crime and thriller community. Everyone's so supportive, I guess.
Yeah, readers as well as other
Absolutely.
writers. Yeah,
absolutely. So we've got this running theme of water, haven't we? In all your published works to date,
we have.
Will that continue?
No. No. So for my next one, which is coming out next summer, I thought, I've written 3 books about boats in the sea on water, so I don't want to write about any of those things this time. So I've chosen something completely different. And we'll see how it goes. Set in Scotland, set in land, although there is water in it because there's a loch. So it seems like I can't get away from it. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm redrafting that at the moment for about the nth time. But once I've settled into the house and everything, I'm looking forward to getting cracking on that one.
Awesome.
And there's that. It's not. There's nothing series or serial about it. It's another standalone.
Well, I thought it's the next one, it would be a standalone, yeah. But I did think, so there's this character in Deepwater he's a Malaysian naval captain, and he's called Captain Daniel Tengku. And I did have this mad idea. I was like, right, what if I did a TV series where Captain Tengku was like a freelance marine investigator for hire, and he went around the world solving maritime crimes. But that's probably going to go on the floppy disk as well.
I was going to say, I don't know if we have any commissioning people for like Netflix or Prime or whatever listening, but get on that, please, because I am really down with that. I love the idea of that.
Or just write the book and wait for the adaptation, because then you have IP.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just me speaking with my producers.
Well,
yes. Do it. Because there's something about water, not just in life, but in stories as well, that I find totally mesmerizing. And even, like when I saw your book, for example, I see the front cover with the lovely shorelines and the lovely surf, and I'm thinking, oh, that's my bag immediately. Get me onto that as well. But like, so would water? I know this is a big question. I don't really know where this has come from, but water seems to be a big thing in your life, Emma.
Yeah. Like 80% of the Earth's surface, is it? I'm making this statistic up now.
That might be the dumbest question I've ever asked on this podcast, Sean. I think it's just because I realized existentially of myself, like, I flipping love water and I get drawn to it all the time, and then I've realized the next 2 books I want to write are water based. I'm like, oh gosh. And then what happens if, like, further down the line, it's like another water based thriller from the water guy, that water.
Oh. And the one that you're working, the one that we've been talking about, is also water based.
It is, yes. It is, yes. Just a different kind of moving body of it. Yeah.
More flowing water, less sea. But,
Oh, you need it because if you don't have it, you die, don't you? So
this is it. Yes, this is it.
Really primal thing.
So, do you get sent lots and lots of books, Emma? We'll move away from stupid questions to much more pertinent ones. Do you get sent lots of books to read and review and stuff like that?
I do. I get sent some. I think because I'm relatively new to this, I haven't been tons yet. But it's a really nice perk of the job that I didn't really consider. Yeah, and it's such an honor as well, I think, that somebody is giving you their book, like, that's not even finished when it's in proof stage, and saying, you can read it. And I know for myself, obviously, because I've been through that process now, like how exposing that feels.
Yeah.
But I think it's a big part of it, and I think it's really important as well to try and support other writers, because I had quotes from Lee Child and Ruth Ware and AJ Finn, and this is for my debut. They don't know me. I've never met any of them, and they were kind enough to take the time to review it. So I want to do that for other writers as well. I've just got so BA Paris. She gave me a quote for Deepwater, and I've just been sent her proof as well. So that's next on my reading list. It's exciting.
Yeah. It is such a privilege, and I think, like, people go, oh yeah, you must get hundreds, but even if you do, just having that mail come through the door, or the postman knocks on and it's like, right, and you're like, I haven't ordered anything.
I know. And we're like, because we're booky people anyway, like, the idea of getting a book through the post as a gift is insanely wonderful. Like, and when it happens, and you're like, and then you get to unwrap them and stuff, like, so it's unbelievably exciting. And a massive privilege as well, isn't it?
In my next life, I'm going to come back as a car person, And then hopefully that will mean people will send me like Lamborghinis and stuff through the post.
Yeah.
I come home, oh God, there's another Porsche parked
They
up.
just, they just send you test ones, which is essentially the same kind of thing, isn't it? Like, we've got a test Lamborghini that you'd like to try, or would you like to try?
But does that mean you have to come back as a cynical, balding, paunchy old man in order to have the Lamborghini? Because
Trade-off, yeah.
Yeah, there is a bit of a trade-off in there.
It's a hell of a trade-off.
All right, there's two moments in your life I'd like to ask you about.
Right.
Right. One is the moment when you knew it was happening, that your book was coming, it was going to be published, and it was going to be in shops for everyone to read. The moment it became real, essentially.
Yeah. So when I told you I had the idea for like the setting for the book, it was probably 10 years ago. But then I went away and wrote my other two first before I came to this one. And I'd been through like loads of drafts, sort of rejections from agents and things, all the standard stuff that's like rite of passage that everyone goes through. And I'd gone on this MA, and I remember saying to one of my tutors, not Tom Ben, a different tutor, do you think it will get published? And he said, maybe, I don't know, because he didn't know, does he? He's just there to teach me and guide me. It's not like making the deals. Then COVID hit, and I was living in student accommodation. I mean, like student accommodation like I lived in when I was in my 20s, like a house share, and the house is falling down around you and stuff. And we were all isolating, weren't we? And I thought, this is not. It's not a good place to be, like, for everybody, like a good mental time. So I thought, well, I want to give myself something to do, because my freelance work had stopped immediately because it was all about sailing travel, and obviously there was no travel at the time. And so I thought, right, I'm going to just query some agents, and I'd listened to a talk by another writer, and he'd said, right, what you need to do is go through, get your list of agents, and then send off to 6 at a time. And then when the first one rejects you, cross them off, and then go back and then go to a 7th. So you always got like 6 out on submission. So you've always got something to look forward to. You're not just feeling down when you get rejected. So I was like, right, okay. And I did my spreadsheet, and I really hate spreadsheets so much, and I can't do them. So that's how like committed I was. And I sent it out, and I was like, right, okay. Need to think about something else now. I'm going to go and like do yoga in my student bedroom, like squished between the bed and the wall. And my phone rang while I was doing the yoga, and it was an agent saying, can you send me the full manuscript? And then I got an email from another agent the same day. And that's when I started to think, I have heard that this happens sometimes to people, but I never expected it to happen to me. So maybe this has got legs. And then signed with an agent, which is Camilla Bolton at Darley Anderson, which is Lee Child's agency, and worked on the manuscript. We sent it out, I think it was May time, so quite quickly, about a month. And she sent it to America and the UK at the same time. And then she rang me, and again, I was in my student bedroom because it's COVID, and I was standing next to like the leaky radiator, and she said, oh yeah, an American publisher's Scout Press, which is part of Simon & Schuster, is preempting, and that's it, your book's being published. And I was like, and I literally didn't understand what she was saying to me, and I said, can you repeat that, please? And she said it again, and then that was it. Then I was like, right, so there we go then. It was a really, really strange feeling after years and years of thinking about this book. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were still many, many drafts to come, and loads of changes and loads of work. But to think, all right, it is going to go now from being a manuscript to an actual book in the shops.
Yeah. And a preempt as well, without all of that, the back and the forth, and the who are we going with, and the what's the offer, and who are we offending, and who, you just go, sorry, it's off the market.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
So it was really good. And my agent never told me about any of the rejections, so I didn't even have to deal with any negative side of anything. It was
just the joy of agenting, really.
Yeah, go around my head getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh no, that is amazing. And such a I love a good story about the moment it happens for people, because I think there are so many wonderful writers out there that that moment never happens for. And I like hearing the stories and sharing the stories, because it keeps people going. There might be some unbelievable gem writers around who just gave up after that first no or whatever, and it's such a shame that. So I love hearing these stories.
Yeah, I think tenacity is such a massive part of it.
Oh yeah.
But it's also it's the thing, like everybody says, oh well, that's, you got an agent really quickly after submitting, and you got a preempt after the agent submitted. But it's like, as you say, there's a 10-year work in progress.
Yeah,
that's come to that. There's a course, there's a lot of feedback, workshop, reworking, reevaluating, reprocessing. It's not, and I think a lot of people sort of have that overnight success feeling, and I've been doing it for so long and I haven't had that. And as you said about your tutor, you just, how can anybody possibly know if it's going to get published? How will we ever know if a pandemic's going to hit, or if people want this kind of thing now? Or, had the pandemic not hit, would we want anything about Paradise Islands, or would we have wanted to go into a darker place? You can't possibly know where anything's going. So all you can do is write your truth, write your story that you've been holding on to and building. And then when it flies, you go, this is no fluke. This is great.
Yeah.
They can't all fly. And, like, as you say, Rob, there are fantastic authors out there who aren't getting traction, but may well do, in 15, 20 years time.
Yeah. And tenacity and stickability are those key things, like we often say this, Emma, that, everyone sometimes assumes there's an overnight success element to everyone's story, everyone who makes it like, oh, it happened for them, it must have just been dead easy for them or whatever. Lucky them. No one knows about
someone.
Yeah. I mean, no one knows about the sleepless nights, the agonizing, the horrible, churning over the story for, in this case we're talking about here, a decade. It's a decade. Some overnight success that is. Goodness me, Yeah, it's crazy. I do. Right. My second question about another moment in your life is, because I'm with the amount of travel that you've done and the places that you've visited, I'm imagining there's all sorts of interesting situations that you found yourself in. I may be absolutely wrong, but was there a moment where you went, oh my God, what am I doing here?
Yes, there is actually. So after I got on my plane, with my one-way ticket to Borneo, I'd had instructions from the captain, and he said, right, so I can't remember which town I was flying into. Maybe Kuching in Borneo. He was like, okay, so you get to the airport, and then you need to take a taxi and tell them that you want to go to this particular police station. He said this in a text so I could show it to the taxi driver. And it must have been nighttime. I think it was about 10 o'clock at night. And I'm in this taxi, and it's going out of the city and then through the suburbs and then into the villages. And it was completely pitch black. There's no street lights or anything. Then he pulled up outside this police station, and it was barely lit, and he didn't speak any English and I didn't speak Malaysian. But it was quite clear from his face and his gestures that he was like, are you sure this is where you want to be? And I said, double check the name of the place. He said, yeah. And I was like, yeah, this is it. So I got out with my luggage into this like boiling hot Borneo night with 36 degrees and 99% humidity or something. And I rang the captain of the boat and I said, I'm here, but I'm not sure. Well, I think I'm here, but I'm not sure I'm in the right place. And he's like, no, I think you are. What can you see? He said, can you see a sign that says no trespassing? I said, yes. He said, right, go past that. into the jungle by yourself in the dark. And I'm not quite ready to receive you yet, but I'll be there in a bit. I was like, oh my God. By this point, the taxi driver had gone. There was no signs of any police at the police station. So like, what am I going to do? So I had a head, because it was completely black. I had like a head torch, because it's like something that sailors have, you know, in campers and stuff, somewhere in my luggage. So I dug that out and put it on my head, and then put my backpack back on and started trudging in the jungle with bats swooping over my head.
No, this is incredible.
Oh, I want to picture you with a little sort of inappropriate suitcase on wheels. But
so I did have one of those. So I had like a big rucksack, and then he'd asked me to bring a cat flap for the boat. And
I can't do this anymore. This is too good.
I mean, that is how the boat sinks, when you drill.
And a home brew kit. No, I had a wheelie case that had the cat flap and the home brew kit in it, which is really heavy, which took ages to come out of on the baggage carousel from the airport. And I thought it'd been like confiscated, because I was going into a Muslim country with a home brew kit and a cat flap. So I had that, and I was massively over on my baggage allowance. So I was wearing like all my clothes, but it was 36 degrees, and I was wearing like jeans, sailing boots. I had like a coat and 3 shirts tied around my waist, and this head touch. I wouldn't have been able to run away from any danger. The big backpack and the wheelie case with the cat flap and the home brew kit.
Who knew I was going to end up with way more questions after that? That's one of the greatest answers. I've never asked that question before, and I'm definitely going to start doing it now, Sean, because if that's the standard of answer we're going to get, then that is. And when did he eventually appear?
Yeah, he did, and it was fine.
Oh, good. And he was an all right guy, and it wasn't weird that he was in the jungle picking you up in the middle of the night.
Well, you need to read the first book to find out the answer to that question.
I mean, listeners, get yourself to it, I would say, because that's what I'm going to be doing immediately after this. Casting off. Is that right?
Yeah. But spoiler alert, although obviously it's not really a spoiler because I'm talking to you now, he wasn't a serial killer. So when I'd asked him, are you a serial killer? And he'd said no, that was the truth.
Oh, that's all. I mean, it's always heartening to know that. Well, just out of my own morbid interest, Sean, have you got one of those? Like,
what?
No, not
or a homebrew kit.
No, a moment in your life where you were like, "What am I doing here?"
Yeah, bloody tons.
Hit us with one.
I suppose like my weirdest was just I'd finished teaching diving in Honduras, and I was taking a circuitous route back to Spain where I was living, and I'd gone through Belize, and I'd gone to stay in Mexico for a while, and I dived in the caves and everything, and it was amazing. And I was just like, yeah, free diving for me rather than teaching other people how to keep their breathing apparatus on their bastard face. And I was just about to leave. I was about to get the bus on to go further south, and I was standing at a bus station, and you know when you're on that traveling route and you just bump into the same people, and sometimes you're like, you're a bunch of assholes, please fuck off out of my space. And I was a lot older, and a lot of the people who were traveling were on spring break or whatever, and because we were in the Caribbean, a lot of them were from the USA. And so there was this same group of Americans who were loud and brash and everything else, and ostentatious and full of and we were all getting on the same bus. So they're like, hey, angry guy from the youth hostel, come and stand with us. And so I was chatting to them, and then they went to the loo, and I found myself sitting at the bus station in a hostile part of Mexico with like probably $6,000 worth of rucksacks and camping equipment and laptops and other things, because they were ostentatious and ridiculous. I had a very much falling apart rucksack with my dirty jocks, a hammock that had a hole in the middle of it, about $50 to my name, because I was on my way home. And these two guys came up and basically mugged me for everybody's stuff. And I was like, I'm not even fighting. You can take it away, have it. And I've still got the scars. They still macheted my arm and
What? I didn't know this.
They took everything. They took passports and everything. And I was like,
Oh, God.
And then I had to get convoyed across the border with some other Mexicans who didn't want that to be the reputation that Mexico had, because it was going to be too far to go to Mexico City. And then they convoyed me back across the border to go to the embassy to get my passport on horseback. So we had a fantastic night riding horses across the border through no fence.
Well, that went in directions I was really unexpecting. I'm very sorry, Sean. I am sorry. I suppose if I am going to ask those questions, that might end up with answers that I'm.
You go, why the hell am I guarding the luggage of some ostentatious, over-rich American students? Well, they're probably shooting up in the Mexican toilet. But anyway, needless to say, when they came out, I was bleeding and they had no luggage.
Oh my God. Well then.
I don't even know what to say.
I know. How do I
I haven't even worked that into a book yet.
No, I know you've got to, man.
We should.
But you were all right in the end.
Yeah, I was fine. I was just like, take the shit. Don't come at me with your bloody big knife. You weirdos.
And they still did.
Yeah, no, I mean, they were just trying to cut the strap off my arm, but you're like, but you nearly took my fucking arm with it.
Oh my God, man.
Anyway. Moral of the story, when people come at you with big knives, give them the shit. It's not worth it.
Yes. And that is a good lesson.
I wasn't even trying to be gung-ho. I was just like, take it, it's not mine.
Oh my God.
I think I still entertain myself to this day with the entertainment of them opening the first 5 rucksacks and being like, yes, we've scored the jackpot. And then opening mine and being like,
oh. Yeah.
We've got the jock pot instead.
Yes.
A diving rash vest that basically smelled of Doritos for the last 6 months. And
oh God.
It's just disgusting. Evelyn.
I think right. I'm going to, before we move, I'm going to steer slightly
back on piste.
Maybe to round out the trio of us, I'll go with. I was fishing with my dad and brother in Puerto Rico. We called a taxi, and we said to the taxi driver, "Can we stop at the first bar on our way home?" And we started going, and we said, "There's one." And it was in the corner of a rock face opposite the sea. And he said, "You don't want to go at that one. That one, we're down the road from the prison. You don't want to go in there." So we insisted, and we went inside, and the floor was dirt, and there were chickens scratching about and all this, and there were loads of huge bikes parked outside, and it was one of those moments like everyone like when the door opens, the Western, the cowboy turn, the cowboy bar turn, everyone stares at you, and it was that moment of like, right, this could go any number of ways. The percentage of it going well is low, I feel. But my dad channeled Roger Moore, and he walked in and held out his arms, went, "Buenos tardes." And within 5 minutes, he was giving life advice to these bikers at the bar. And me and my brother were drinking beers with these other bikers while chickens scratched at our shins. It was an astonishing moment of it really could. And we never told our mum. Never told mum.
Of course not.
Never told mum.
How old were you, Rob?
It was 2007, so I was 24. What do you think? I was like 12. Yeah.
Mum's back in the hotel going, God, that fishing trip's taken a while.
We told her we were going to have a beer on the way home, but the taxi driver wouldn't come in. He said, I'll wait outside in case there's trouble.
I just let you guys out of there. Diffuse any problem by walking into a bar and going, Buenos tardes.
Yeah. A smile. Honestly, a smile gets you so many places.
I'm going to try that in Glasgow next time I'm there.
I'm going to try it. Just try it
in
everywhere.
Spanish, yeah.
Yeah, in Spanish. Yeah, that's the key. That is the key to it. Right. Serious stuff. Emma, what are you reading at the moment? I know you said you've got B.A. Paris's latest book, but is that what you've been reading at the minute?
I have. So I've just come back from holiday, and I read, and I've been looking forward to it for ages, 2 Nights in Lisbon by Chris, I don't know how you say his surname, Pavone or Pavone. He's an American international thriller writer. And my God, that is like, I've never read anything like it. Have you read it?
No, I'm literally Googling it right now so I can get my hands on it.
So it opens with a woman in a hotel room in Lisbon, and her husband's just gone missing. And it's just told in a really, really interesting way. Like there's loads of just, it's really hard to describe. There's kind of like loads of flashbacks. So you've got like the tension of the plot, which is what's happened to the missing husband. And there's like police and CIA and all kinds of American embassy getting involved. But then there's also this tension of her past, which is told in flashback. And that pulls you along, I'd say, even more than the top layer plot. Is really, really clever. And I really want to read more of his books now. Yeah, it was a good one to like, you know, it believe the hype, I'd say.
Oh, that's awesome.
Really good.
I've just checked, it's 99p on Kindle, so you just got him a sale, right? Just like that. So
Excellent.
job done. We're all paying it forward, aren't we? You know, passing the love around.
Yeah, and before that, I read No Country for Girls by Emma Stiles, who I know is
fantastic.
Really really good. Really good.
Super. And we love Emma in these parts.
Yeah.
Sean, what about you? What are you reading?
I'm reading that exciting thing we got on the post.
Oh, cool. Yes.
Oh, I love Jane Harper.
Jane Harper Exile. Because I love The Dry. And I didn't know, like Rob and I didn't know we were getting this, but Chris had replied to an email from a publicist, and so I did that thing of opening the thing, going, "What is this now?" And I was like, "Oh, it's Jane Harper!" So it's here, it's nestling beautifully.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, we'll be interviewing her in the coming months, won't we?
Well, that's a good reason to have got the book then. But
it is. Should I not have said that? I don't. Oh well.
Can't say no now, can she?
Can't say. Yeah, that's it. We made promises.
I loved The Dry. I thought it was when it came out. I just thought it was one of those books that's so different from anything that was on the market at the time, and so exquisitely written. Again, those things that you go, yeah, I'll read that author every time.
Yeah. And this one, Exiles, is the same protagonist, isn't it? Yeah. So it's just I'm very excited. It's silly, isn't it? Because you just like you keep getting things and going, I'm so excited.
No, because I loved there was the second book with that protagonist, and I can't remember what it's called now. Because there was The Dry, and then it was followed up with here's a bit of a live Google going on. Force of Nature, that was it. Force of Nature. Which Aaron Falk, isn't it?
Aaron Falk,
yeah. And I loved Force of Nature. I thought it was brilliant. As much as The Dry. I didn't see the movie though. Did anyone see the movie? No. I'd like to. Apparently, I think Eric Banner is playing the Falk role. I think, which is. I think you're right. Actually,
interesting. And another one she did was called The Lost Man, and that's actually my favourite of hers. And that's about a man that's found in like the middle of the outback. He's dead and he's clinging to a gravestone, and no one knows like how he got there and or why he died or what he died of. It's really, really good. It's quite similar to The Dry in tone and setting, because I know she sets some of her novels in different places. But yeah, it's really excellent. So I recommend that one, The Lost Man.
Oh, that's awesome. I have to stock up on all the Jane Harper before we speak to her.
What are you reading, Rob?
I am reading Running and Jumping by Mr. Stephen Keedy. So this book is astonishing. So Emma, it's about it's coming from Red Dog Press pretty soon. It's just so well written, and I find it so compelling. But it's about a decades-old rivalry between a couple of long jumpers. It's fictional, but it's set in the real sporting world, and that attention to detail and realism is something that is so on point, but it's never at the forefront. It's always incidental to this rip-roaring brilliant story. So I just think it's brilliant, this book. Running and Jumping by Stephen Keedy.
He's master a character on that one, because if you read the book and then every single athlete interview you ever hear afterwards, when they almost won gold but got silver, they're like, and the interviewer's like, "Wow, you got silver," and they're like, yeah, that's really great, isn't it? It's so incredible, because when you've read the book, you kind of understand the feelings. And I played competitive sport when I was in my teens and whatever, and I understand that drive, but it's so all-consuming in the book, and it's brilliant. It's just a masterpiece in characterization.
It is, and he trained as a long jumper to research for it as well. So that is serious dedication, and that's another book.
So he wasn't a long jumper originally. He decided,
no,
I'm going to write a book about long jumping. I'm going to take that up.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Literally, and trained with trained with elite athletes to get his head in the right.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's what I did when I wrote the book about serial killers. I don't know why people.
Yeah. No, awesome. Well, Emma, it's been absolutely wonderful to meet you tonight. Thank you so much.
Really fun. Thanks for having me on.
No, it's been absolutely great. Will you be knocking about on the festival circuit in the coming year so we can say hello in person?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Awesome. And with that not with that in mind, but with can you tell us can you give away the title for what's coming next year?
I can give you the working title. I don't mind that, because
cool.
It's Eye of the Beholder.
Awesome.
Because it is partly about beauty and cosmetic surgery industry as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
that's really interesting. Well, Sean, always great to hang out with you, man. Thanks for being with me tonight. And Emma, it's an absolute pleasure to have met you tonight. Thanks for spending the time. Listeners, go out there and buy Deep Water pronto, and look out for In the Eye of the Beholder next year.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I nearly said say goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
You douche.
Oh no.
Hi, I'm Rob.
I'm Simon.
And I'm James.
We want to talk about those movies. Those supposedly bad movies. Those movies that bombed.
To see if they weren't that bad after all, join us every other Tuesday on the For Your Reconsideration podcast, part of the Pod Dojo podcast network.
You can catch us on iTunes, Spotify, and all your usual podcast apps.
And it won't cost you a solitary bean, mate.
It's like it's free.
It's just like it's free.